When you're buying NIO stock, you're not actually investing in NIO. So guys, in this video, we're going to change the subject a little bit. We're going to talk about some of the risk involved in investing into NIO stock. Of course, I'm super bullish long term. I think the chip has a lot of potential, and I believe sales are just going through the roof. There's so many orders, and bankruptcy is impossible for NIO. Just make that very clear. It's impossible for NIO to go bankrupt simply because there's so many orders. And also, if it gets to that point, there will be plenty of people willing to scoop people up. Now, what are some of the risks though? Okay. And it's very important to assess the risk so that we don't get blindsided by it. And I think one of the biggest risks involved is the fact that NIO Inc. is not NIO. All right. What you're investing in, when you buy stock, NIO stock, that's actually you're buying stock of NIO Inc. And NIO Inc. is not NIO. Okay? NIO is NIO China. That's NIO. So you're buying a shell company that owns 90+% of NIO China. So basically, you're buying stock in a shell company that owns 90% of NIO. Okay? And what really frustrates me is that we know how much cash NIO Inc. has, all right? Like 27 billion RMB in cash. But how much cash does NIO China have? And then just out of the blue, NIO's like, hey, NIO Inc. is going to invest 20 billion into NIO China. And that reduces the shell company's cash balance from 27 billion down to 7 billion RMB. For what? Right? So the company that we're invested in, that we have stock in, is going to have its cash balance drop from 27 billion down to 7 billion. For what? To invest that 20 billion RMB into NIO China. But exactly how much cash does NIO China have? Is NIO China shorting cash? What's going on over there? And this raises the question, is NIO Inc. just a method for getting cash to NIO China? And thinking about it, I really don't want to make this video, to be honest, right? But you have to ask that question, right? They're going to increase their stake, and it goes to like 91 something percent. And this is also that the original investors, aka the government, the Hefei government, gets to cash out. So where does that money go to? They're buying back the stake that the government owns in NIO China. So the government, Hefei, they own maybe a couple percentage. They're going to give that money to those guys so that those couple percentage goes back to NIO Inc. So NIO Inc. now owns more of NIO China. And man, the thing is, we don't have a clear picture about like how's NIO China doing? All right, is NIO China like do they have a bunch of money? All right, if they have a bunch of money, that's great. All right, and NIO China was supposed to go public here in China, but it seems like they're not doing it, or at least not that we know of. And if they do go public, of course, we'll have a clear picture of what the balance sheet for NIO China looks like. But until that happens, we don't really know. Okay, how much cash does NIO China have? We know how much cash NIO Inc. has, the shell company that owns 90% of NIO China. But again, NIO Inc. is not NIO China, which is the most frustrating thing. Okay, and it's just like, it's sort of a situation where the government has stake in NIO China. And then if dilution happens, it dilutes NIO Inc. shareholders and not NIO China shareholders. You get what I mean? Like NIO China, those government, they own however much percentage of NIO China. They don't get diluted when they offer new shares. NIO Inc. gets diluted. So that's also like kind of like, oh my God. So they're getting like protection from dilution. Their ownership of NIO as a company, right, is protected. Whereas NIO Inc. shareholders, all right, we're invested in NIO Inc. The number of shares of NIO Inc. could be increased and diluted to get more money, which then goes into, NIO China. They buy stake back from the government guys to increase their stake in NIO China. So it's not a very clear picture, okay? And whilst I'm very bullish with NIO as a company, right? As a company, NIO is just going to do well. The relationship between NIO Inc. and NIO China is what has me a little bit concerned, right? And a little bit worried. The fact that NIO Inc. isn't NIO China, okay? And exactly how well is NIO China doing? So this whole thing is just, yeah. I wish there was more clarity. I wish there was more clarity to this, and I wish that NIO would be able to publish the books about NIO China. How much cash does NIO China have, right? But we don't know for sure. We only know NIO Inc.'s cash position. So that's and also we don't have any details about like NIO Power, right? We do know for a fact that the charging business is profitable, but that all falls under NIO China. And also battery swap. How profitable is battery swap, right? Because with all these free swaps that people have, is it profitable? Are we close to getting profitable with battery swap? They can say that yes, we're gonna get we're 60 swaps per day. That's how we get profitable, but we don't have any numbers, right? That's all under NIO China. Unless they share NIO China numbers, we don't know for a fact. We just have to take their word for it. And that's what worries me. So we get to see what the shell company looks like, but we don't get to see what NIO China looks like. And that's just a little concerning for me personally. And I think that's the only risk involved with NIO. Bankruptcy is not a risk. Let's be very clear, okay? NIO's not going to go bankrupt. But NIO Inc. and NIO China, could NIO Inc. be just NIO China's ATM machine? I don't know. I can't say no for certain. So, yeah. I think you guys should do your own due diligence on that aspect, right? I'm just sharing my honest concerns with this. And you are welcome to comment whatever you guys want, or what you guys think, your own personal opinion about this. You can like the video or dislike the video, but it's just my honest concern. That's it, okay? I'm not saying NIO is a bad company. I'm saying NIO is a great company. It's just the structure, NIO Inc. and NIO China thing is what keeps me up at night, all right? So I'm just sharing this with you guys. Hope you guys dig a bit deeper into this, okay? And do your own due diligence. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't say for sure that, maybe in the future NIO does tremendously well. Maybe NIO Inc. might not do so well. Or maybe NIO Inc. does tremendously well and NIO doesn't do that well. So, yeah. So, the fact that the two aren't the same thing is concerning. All right? That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? So do your own due diligence. Yeah. You're welcome to dislike this video if you just think I shouldn't be sharing my concerns. But yeah, as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.